Good morning to everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all for this important topic on current COVID vaccination drive on behalf of IMA Kalyan and CGP faculty IMA Kalyan. I now call upon our Honorable Secretary CGP IMA Maharashtra State, Dr. Pradeep Kumar Sangle sir, for further proceeding. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Honorable President IMA Kalyan, Dr. Prashant Patil sir, office bearers of IMA Kalyan, all presidents and office bearers of the associations forming Kalyan Doctors Army. Today's moderator of this scientific session, Dr. Vikram Jain, and all the panelists, Dr. Shreyas, Dr. Himanshu, Dr. Rajendra Kesarwani, Dr. Arun Katkar, Dr. Nimbalkar, and all the participating delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and warm welcome to one and all for today's scientific session. At the outset, let me thank Dr. Rajan Sancheti, Honorary Secretary IMA Pune, and Mr. Dipen Mehta from DigiShield to make this beautiful platform made available for us for today's scientific session. After COVID, with long awaiting, at least the vaccine has arrived, but it has arrived with lots of queries. As the social media is vibrant, we get number of posts like Norway incidents, and the vaccine has come with a fear in our minds. So to know the basic scientific knowledge about this current vaccination drive and all the doubts in our minds, we have got the experts panelists to guide us on the subject today. Without much ado, I would like to call upon Dr. Vikram Jain. Dr. Vikram Jain is a chest specialist and intensivist, and he has done a lot of work in this COVID for IMA Kalyan, Dr. Army Kalyan, and Kalyan. Right from the formation of fever OPDs, then dedicated COVID centers, all the guidelines he has set for everything. He needs no introduction. I will request Vikram sir to handle the further scientific session. Over to you, Vikram sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for all your kind words. At the outset, I thank all the office bearers of Kalyan IMA and IMA CGP for having this wonderful CME. I at present request our President, Dr. Prashant Patil, to formally inaugurate this session.
At the outset, I would like to first thank Dr. Pradeep Kumar Sangle, the Secretary of CGP branch. It was very innovative. Actually, it was very short time, but in as IMA Kalyan is known to formulate its all its events in very short time, Dr. Vikram Jain along with the team designed the scientific program in such a way that it will address all the queries of doctors and the health work professionals regarding the vaccination. My best wishes are always with the team. These are the best faculty what we can have for to answer all these queries. I am declaring that this session is open and Dr. Vikram Jain to continue the further proceedings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, we just start with our session with the first topic. And to address this first topic, I would request Dr. Shreyas Godbole. Dr. Shreyas Godbole is an upcoming chest physician in our suburban area. He graduated from Grant Medical College in 2013 with an MD in pulmonary medicine from Jamnagar in 2017. He has got a fellowship in pulmonary vertical care in 2018 from Sion Hospital. In fact, he is one of the most promising name in our area right now, with a lot of wonderful job being done during this COVID times. He is the one person with good experience and good hand in intervention pulmonology. I welcome Dr. Shreyas Godbole to address our queries today. The first question to Dr. Shreyas Godbole would be, sir, please could you throw light on how our immunity reacts to the COVID natural infection in relation to antibody production and the cell-mediated immunity. This is something which is very back to basic kind of question, but to understand how the vaccine is going to benefit mankind, we have to understand the basic immunology of COVID-19 infection. Over to you, Shreyas.
Good morning, sir, and thank you for those kind words of introduction. And once again, a big thanks to all the faculty members and the office bearers of IMA Kalyan and the state CGP. Coming back to the question, basically what happens is whenever there is a COVID infection, so the respiratory epithelium of our body has converting enzyme 2 receptors. So these ACE2 receptors act as the binding site for the viral spike glycoprotein, which is present on the viral envelope. The virus also has few other antigens like the surface antigen, the nucleocapsid antigen, the membrane and the envelope antigen. But amongst these, the surface and the nucleocapsid, that is the S and the N, are the most immunogenic antigens present on the virus. Once the virus attaches onto the receptor and gains access in the cell, it activates what is so-called the innate immunity that our body has for all types of viral infection. So what is activated is an intracellular pattern recognition receptor. So these receptors do not actually recognize which virus is it, but they just recognize certain epitopes. And based on that, a cytolytic innate immune response is activated. And how that goes forward is there are alpha and beta interferons that are secreted in the body, and the natural killer cells come into the scene. So that the activity that is done by these cells of cell lysis and apoptosis is the innate immunity of our body. After the innate immunity is the adaptive immunity. So once the SARS-CoV-2 infects and replicates inside the viral, inside the respiratory epithelial cells, so these cells will eventually undergo apoptosis, and when they die, they will release certain molecules, which are also termed as damage-associated molecular patterns. There are certain nucleic acid, there are certain oligomers which are released after cell death. Once these molecules are released, then the surrounding macrophages will recognize them. They will activate the immune system. There are certain cytokines that will be released like interleukin-6, and they will further recruit more T cells to the site of infection. Now, this is what we call as the T cell mediated immunity, in which there are CD8 cells. The CD8 cells will cause direct killing of the infected cells. There is a Th1 response. So the Th1 response will cause secretion of gamma interferons, and together it is known as the T cell immunity. One more subset of cells that is there are the helper T cells. So the helper T cells will stimulate the B lymphocytes. Once the B lymphocytes are stimulated, they will produce antibodies. And once these antibodies come in the picture, it is known as B cell immunity. So these antibodies are of different types. So they can be either neutralizing antibodies, which are specifically directed towards that S protein that we have discussed earlier. And these antibodies that will target the S protein, they actually block the viral infection and replication. The routine antibody titers that we do, the IgG titers that we do, they need not necessarily measure the neutralizing antibodies. The titers for measuring neutralizing antibodies are not readily available, and so a false negative IgG titer will not mean that you don't have a neutralizing antibody. It is just that we have not measured it. Also, antibody levels will be dependent on the severity of infection and the viral load that is present. Once the body starts clearing the virus via the innate and the adaptive immunity, the stimulus is no longer present. And once the stimulus is no longer present, the IgM level starts to decrease. And then the major antibody that is found is the IgG antibody. Over to you, sir.
That was really a hardcore basic understanding of COVID immunology by Dr. Shreyas. Shreyas, I would still have one simple question for you at the end of this whole knowledgeable session. That is, do vaccination mimic a similar response to a natural infection? And is it able to give us a good long-lasting immunity against this infection?
Okay, so the mechanism of response is slightly different. What it does is, when there is a natural infection, we have the actual viral particles which are eliciting the response. When there is a vaccine, so we no longer have a live COVID vaccine. So all the different types of vaccines that are available either will produce some sort of spike proteins which are present on the virus, and these proteins then mimic the antibody response and the T cell response that is generated by the body. So these responses are of basically two types. The first is a primary response. The primary immune response will be seen after we take the first dose of the vaccine. It is slow to build. It lasts for around the peak effect is usually seen after 2 weeks of the first response, but the response may decrease over a period of time. And for that, we need a second dose, which generates what is known as a secondary immune response. So that is a more stronger and quicker response, because by now the memory B cells and the memory T cells are rapidly activated, and this leads to a more higher antibody concentrations in the body.
Okay, so definitely that's a really hopeful the talk about it, that the vaccine will really help. So now the burning question today in our mind is, what are the different types of vaccine available in the world vis-a-vis which are available in India? Can you explain what is exactly available for us to be actually choose from?
Okay, so the vaccines which are available in India right now, the vaccine which has been approved is the Oxford AstraZeneca Covishield vaccine by the Serum Institute, and the vaccine which has been given conditional approval is the Bharat Biotech or the Covaxin vaccine. Coming to the general types of vaccine which are available all around the world, the first type of vaccine is the mRNA vaccine. So the mRNA vaccine is the vaccine in which a target RNA sequence in our body. The RNA will code for a certain proteins. The synthesis of these proteins in our body will trigger the immune response. The mRNA-based vaccines are two. One is Pfizer and the second is Moderna. Both have been approved in the US. The viral vector is the next category of vaccines. So this uses a genetically engineered harmless vector, which is usually an adenovirus. So that synthesizes the COVID proteins, and then those induce an immune response. So the more prominent amongst the viral vaccine is the first, which is approved in our country, that is the Covishield vaccine, and second, which is undergoing phase 3 studies in India, that is the Sputnik or the Russian vaccine. The next category of vaccine is an inactivated vaccine, in which what we do is the SARS-CoV-2 is inactivated or killed using beta-lactone. So the ability to replicate is lost, but the structure and structural proteins are retained in the exact same way. The first vaccine of that type is the Bharat Biotech Covaxin, which is conditionally approved in India. And the second prominent vaccine of the similar mechanism is the Sinopharm vaccine, which is approved in China. The third type is the DNA vaccine, in which a DNA sequence is directly introduced in our body, which will cause synthesis of the relevant proteins. And Zydus Cadila and Sanofi are currently doing phase 3 trials of these vaccines. The vaccines in which protein fragments are directly used as substrates, and those are subunit vaccines. And Novavax is the company which is undergoing phase 3 trials for the subunit vaccine.
Thank you, Shreyas. So as I understand, I can just summarize for our audience that right now, today, we have Covishield vaccine available in India under conditional use or emergency approval. And we have Covaxin from Bharat Biotech also for our use as in a conditional approval. So these two vaccines are definitely there for us to choose from. Now, moving further, I would like to invite one more dynamic chest physician of our area in KDMC area, Dr. Himanshu Thakkar, MD chest, worked as an intensivist in KEM Hospital, Pune, done his fellowship in therapeutic bronchoscopy from Ruby Hall. He has worked at various hospitals, including Hinduja Hospital, Terna Medical College, where he was has a small stint as a professor as well. Now he is a chest physician at Icon Hospital, Dombivli, and runs a chest clinic in Kalyan. Welcome, Dr. Himanshu Thakkar. I would request with the first question that could you please throw some light on Covishield vaccine in terms of its constituents and who are eligible for this vaccine, what is the immunogenicity and what is the success rate of this vaccine? Over to you, Dr. Himanshu.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, IMA. Thank you, IMA CGP State. Thank you, Sanjay sir, Prashant Patil sir. Thank you, Vikram sir, for kind words. Moving ahead, basically, what is Covishield? As Dr. Shreyas has explained very nicely, it's basically developed by University of Oxford and the AstraZeneca. It works basically by delivering the genetic protein of the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein into the body cells, due to which our immune system recognizes it and then develops an immune response to it. Eventually, when the COVID virus enters into the body, the same spike protein is released, and thus it gets destroyed by our immunity, thus preventing the further disease into progression. It is basically a DNA virus and not an RNA virus, which is still under the controversial role. So it's basically this DNA along with the viral gene which is inserted into the cells, and it also has been engineered in such a way that the gene which is responsible for replication of the virus is removed from the Covishield vaccine. Thus, what happens is it cannot replicate, and thus it cannot cause a disease. This is in short how Covishield works. The main constituents of Covishield is the active ingredient, which is the modified adenovirus. The inactive ingredients includes polysorbate, small amounts of ethanol, disodium edited hydrate, some traces of magnesium, emulsifiers, and sucrose. The only advantage of Covishield is it does not contain any human or animal products. And also there are no common allergens which are used, that is no use of latex, gluten, peanuts, eggs, lactulose, even no PEG, that is polyethylene glycol. So overall, comparatively, it is a quite safer vaccine. Coming to the indications, I mean, there are different countries which have come up with their indications, and UK have a different indications to whom it should be given. As far as India is concerned, due to lack of availability at present, it is divided into two groups basically for now. First group would be the healthcare workers. Even in healthcare workers, those who are the frontline healthcare workers and the essential services, they are to be targeted first. The second group which comes is two types. One is age more than 50 years and age less than 50 years. Coming to age more than 50, again it is divided into two groups. One, first preference would be given to people who are age more than 60, and second preference between 50 to 60 years. And simultaneously age people whose age is less than 50 years but they have comorbidities, so they will also be given preference into the second group. Coming to the efficacy, overall tells whatever studies we have been obtained, the efficacy is around 70.4%. So it says that usually it is to be taken in 2 doses. So it is said that if we take after 4 weeks or 6 weeks, the immunity is bound to increase. But however, that data is to be yet awaited. But overall efficacy, whatever we have right now, is around 70.4% for Covishield.
Thank you, Dr. Himanshu, for this wonderful insight. Vis-a-vis Covishield, we also have Covaxin available in India, which has been authorized for use. Could you just throw some light on Covaxin as well in terms of its constituents, its immunogenicity, and the success rates?
Yeah, yes, Covaxin is also seems to be promising, but however, we are lacking the efficacy data as of now. But Covaxin, again, very much talked about vaccine in India. It is often referred to as BBV 152. And it is usually the immunogenicity is based on Th1 and Th2 immune response to the vaccine. As Dr. Shreyas has said, it is basically an inactivated SARS-CoV antigen which is used. Definitely it has the ability to demonstrate antibodies, but yet efficacy is still to be seen, documented as of now. Again, Covaxin also, as I said, the active ingredient is the inactivated SARS-CoV-2 antigen, and specifically the strain used is around 2770, which is the strain which is used, which is the active ingredient in Covaxin. The other inactive ingredients are aluminum hydroxide, and there is one imidazoquinolone, which is an TLR 7/8 agonist, which helps in the immune response, and the phenoxyethanol and phosphate buffer saline, which is an inactive ingredient in the Covaxin, this thing. So overall, whatever phase 1, phase 2 says, the seroconversion rate is very good, say around 80 to 90% seroconversion is there. But however, in use, the efficacy is yet awaited for Covaxin.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Himanshu. One more quick question for you. As I understand, first I would just summarize that both these vaccines are good with similar success rates, and the person who are eligible for it at present, currently with the availability and the huge population in India, we have targeted it to maybe only a frontline healthcare workers and people with comorbidities, as well as people who are above the age of 60. So these three probably, summarizes the type of people who are eligible for it at present. Okay, now coming to what are the general contraindications for COVID-19 vaccination, which is the biggest burning question in everybody's mind, that who should not receive it.
Right, it's definitely a burning question in front of everyone. The very primed or the prime focus contraindication is those who have a very severe allergic reactions, specifically to any viruses or any vaccines taken previously, or any kind of or person who is prone to any kind of allergic reactions to any of the above said ingredients, or in general. Ideally, they should be avoided. Pregnancy, breastfeeding is an contraindication as of now. However, the JVCI authority, which says that breastfeeding females, it can be given, but however, as far as data is concerned, it is not yet studied. So it is better to be avoided in pregnancy as well as breastfeeding females. Yes, in children, it should be avoided. People who are having bleeding disorders, or people who are on anticoagulations, these are to be avoided, or these are in general contraindications for the vaccine process right now. And even recently it has said that patients who have received convalescent plasma, in those cases also, it till 4 to 6 weeks post this thing, it should be avoided giving the vaccine. Those who are having active infection, or it may be any infection, it may be COVID or it may be any other infection, vaccination to be avoided in those cases. There is some doubt regarding the immunodeficiency syndromes in people who are suffering from immunodeficiency. The studies say that it should be avoided, and also people who are on immunosuppressive drugs, better to avoid vaccination in those kind of people.
Thank you, Dr. Himanshu. I really thank Dr. Himanshu and Dr. Shreyas Godbole for this really a thorough insight about the vaccines, immunogenicities, eligibility, and contraindication part. I would definitely come to both of you when we will be addressing the FAQ section of this talk. Now I welcome the another gray hair feather in our cap, Dr. Rajendra Kesarwani. He is basically my batchmate from 1996 batch, MBBS, followed by diploma in respiratory medicine and DNB medicine from Lilavati Hospital. Had a wonderful stint as an intensivist bronchoscopist in various hospitals, corporate hospitals like Lilavati Hospital, Global Hospital, Fortis Vashi Hospital, and now he is successfully running his own hospital, which has done a phenomenal work during this COVID pandemic. And he has been the busiest of all of us in terms of working throughout this last 10 months. I welcome Dr. Rajendra Kesarwani to this session and straight away firing the first question to him. Now, since we have already understood the vaccine immunology, we have understood the types of vaccine available, we have gone through the indications, eligibility, and now with contraindications as well. Now I am already pricked with this vaccine. Now, first thing in my mind is I'm worried about commonest side effects. So please, Dr. Rajendra Kesarwani, enlighten us about commonest side effects with their statistics in terms of Covishield, which is available right now in KDMC area. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Vikram, for the kind introduction. And I would like to thank Dr. Prashant Patil, sir, President IMA, and Dr. Sangle, sir, IMA CGP Maharashtra chapter. Now, as we have started our immunization in Kalyan Dombili, and many of them have got vaccinated, and all over India, the data is around 1 million. We have finished in 1 week. That's a quite big number. Regarding the coming to the side effect of Covishield, it's an absolutely safe vaccine. The most common side effect which you have seen is 1 in 10% is they will suffer some pain at the site injection. They will have mild tenderness. Few of them will have little myalgia, little lethargy, chills. They can have fever for around 101 to 102, but these all are very minor side effects which subside in 24 to 48 hours. And few of them, like suppose 1 in 20 people, from 20 people, one will require some treatment like paracetamol or some naproxen. Few of our members have experienced that, but they all subsided with taking a simple paracetamol tablet. Now, few of the serious side effects it has been reported is some of them have reported giddiness. One person has reported convulsion. One person has reported demyelinating neuropathy, which is very rare, but that is also documented that it can cause demyelinating neuropathy. If some rare side effects are there, this has to be reported by the committee, and that they will look after. In Kalyan Dombili, we have formed a committee which all the pediatrician, physician, neurophysician, cardiologists are the part of it. As of now, it's a very safe vaccine. There are very few side effects which are very well manageable with simple medications. So it's a very safe vaccine to start with.
Thank you, Dr. Rajendra. There has been really few talks about the less common side effects or the very rare kind of side effects which had happened with Covishield. Could you just throw some more light on general management of adverse effects, apart from the commonest one which you mentioned, that was pain at the injection site or fever? Apart from that, we may have nausea, vomiting, or other things as well. So just few words about general management of adverse effects after going home from vaccination.
Yes, all the persons who are receiving vaccines are monitored for 30 minutes in the vaccination center. In that, if they experience some side effects like nausea, vomiting, they are allowed to lay down. We check the pulse, BP. We give antiemetics, paracetamol, and once they go home, if they're feeling better, they go home. And in the home, they have chills or they have body ache, they can take tablet paracetamol. They can take it 6 hourly. And suppose if they have more side effects, like some person can experience convulsion, or some can experience demyelinating neuropathy, which should be seen after 3, 4, 7 days. They can contact the nearby physicians, which we have displayed in the vaccination center. As if that is how we go for general management of the side effect.
Thank you, Dr. Rajendra. Definitely, I would again come back to you with our FAQ section. I would request at this point for all our attendees to post their questions in chat box if they want to ask any questions to our panelists. Now, moving further, I would request and I would welcome all on behalf of COVID Task Force. I would welcome everybody from KDMC who is attending this session, including the people who are in charge of health, taking care of health of all the individuals living in KDMC area. Our MOH Madam, Dr. Ashwini Patil, our vaccination in charge, Dr. Nimbalkar, our epidemic officer, Dr. Pratibha Patil, and everybody else who is attending this webinar from KDMC. At this point, I would invite Dr. Arun Katkar. He'll throw definitely light on how government is approaching towards this vaccination drive. Dr. Katkar is MBBS from GS Medical College, KEM Hospital, Parel, and he has worked as a medical officer in BMC from 1992 to 2001. Now he is working as an surveillance medical officer for WHO, initially with Bihar, Madhya Pradesh from 2001 to 2009, and from 2009 onwards, he is a surveillance medical officer of New Mumbai, Kalyan, Dombivli, Panvel, etc. So with this, I invite Dr. Katkar to throw some light on how government is approaching this vaccination drive, what our residents, what our frontline healthcare workers need to know about this vaccination drive.
Thank you, sir. Good morning to all of you. And first of all, I would like to say thanks to Dr. Sangle sir and Dr. Patil sir and all the office bearers of IMA Kalyan for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to talk with you and interact with you. So today, basically, I will speak on COVID-19 vaccination drive. So which is being conducted by the government system, right? So what are the preparations they have done and how it is being implemented in our country? So as we all know that this COVID-19 vaccination drive was launched on 16th of January 2021 by our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi ji. Now, just we all know that since last 10 months, we are highlighting about the prevention. We basically are on the three points, that is hand hygiene, respiratory hygiene, and physical distancing. But now we have the weapon against the COVID-19 disease, and that is the vaccine. So as we have already discussed, we have two types of vaccines, that is Covishield and Covaxin. We are going to give 2 doses of the vaccine, the first dose and the second dose, to all the beneficiaries. And this Covishield, as you know, this is manufactured by the Serum Institute of India, and Covaxin by the Bharat Biotech. These are the liquid vaccines, and we have the multi-dose vial which is supplied to us, and we are giving to give 2 doses of vaccine to each and every beneficiary with the 20 days apart. Then we'll give 0.5 ml intramuscular injection in the upper arm, and these vaccines are stored between +2 to +8 degrees centigrade temperature, and there is no interchangeability of the vaccine. So if you get a first shot of Covishield, then you should get the second shot of Covishield only. So there is no interchangeability allowed as far as the vaccination is concerned. Now, what is the government mechanism? Here you can see there's a NEGVAC group that stands for National Expert Group on Vaccine Administration for COVID-19. The chairmanship is of Niti Aayog, and it is co-chaired by the Secretary of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So this basically NEGVAC group actually monitors whole COVID-19 vaccination activity which is going on in our country. At state level, we have the steering committees and task force and also the control room. Similarly, at corporation level also, we have a task force at corporation level, and we have the control room at the corporation level, just to monitor this activity in our Kalyan Dombivli Municipal Corporation area. As far as the prioritization of the population group is concerned, as we all know that the first group includes the healthcare workers, where we are going to vaccinate government as well as the private healthcare workers, and the total number is around 1 crore in India. And the frontline workers are those who are from the defense, like military and paramilitary forces, then police and home guards and municipal corporation employees. So they are around 2 crores in India. The second group will be the persons above 50 years and below 50 years with comorbid conditions. So the estimate is around 27 crores. So total, we are going to target 30 crore beneficiaries as of now. But subsequently, the vaccine will be made available to others also, right? These are the partners who are giving key support to this COVID-19 vaccination activity in India. WHO is there, then UNDP, UNICEF, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, ITSU, and JSI. Now let us come to how we are going to set up the session. See, this session site is identified by the district administration. It may be the government health facility. The session may be planned in a government health facility or maybe in a private health facility. Also, we can plan sessions in schools or community halls and municipality buildings also. The most important thing is if we plan session in a health facility, then it should be preferably separate from the patient care area, just to avoid the cross infection. Then how the site is set up. The entry and exit should be separate as far as I mean, if possible, then we will have the three rooms. First is waiting room, second is vaccination room, and third is observation room, just to avoid the crisscross movement of the beneficiary at the session site. Now, in waiting room, we will have the facility for the hand washing or sanitization. Then there will be sitting arrangement to ensure that the physical distancing of 6 feet, and there will be a communication material on CAB, that is COVID appropriate behavior, which will be placed on the walls of the waiting room. Then the second room is the vaccination room, where only one beneficiary will be allowed to enter in the vaccination room at a time. And we will have all the logistics which is required for the vaccination in a vaccination room. There will be 2 vaccine carriers with 4 conditioned ice packs. Then we will have adequate vaccine vials. We will have adequate AD syringes. And most important thing is we will have anaphylaxis or AFI kit. You know, in anaphylaxis kit, we keep the adrenaline injection. So if there is any anaphylaxis occurs, the vaccinator can give the 1 dose of adrenaline to that beneficiary, and then the patient can be referred to the higher centers. Even we have the red bags, yellow bags, and black bags, and a blue puncture-proof container for to take care of the biomedical waste. Then third room is the observation room, where the beneficiary will wait for 30 minutes after vaccination. Uh, and there will be again a sitting arrangement to ensure the physical distancing of 6 feet, and communication material will be displayed on the walls. There will be drinking water and toilet facility available in the observation room. Now, how we are going to conduct a session at the session site? So we'll have the vaccination team, one vaccination team consisting of 5 members. There will be 4 vaccination officers and 1 vaccinator officer. The 1 vaccinator officer is going to vaccinate the beneficiary, and so we will see the role of each and every vaccination officer. It's a vaccination officer number 1. He may belong to police or home guard, and he will be stationed at the entry gate. And his most important work is to identify the beneficiary based on available list. So he will be having the list of all 100 beneficiaries, because we are going to target 100 beneficiaries at a session site. So he will be having the list. He will he will try to match the SMS which has received to the beneficiary. Then he will ask the beneficiary to wash and sanitize the hand, and he will also advise beneficiary to wear the mask and maintain the physical distance in a waiting room. Now the beneficiary is waiting in a waiting room. When his turn or her turn will come, he will enter in a vaccination room, where we will have vaccination officer number 2. The vaccination officer number 2 will cross-check the name of the beneficiary in the CoWIN app. So there is a CoWIN app where the names of the beneficiaries are already entered in the app. So he will try to verify the identity of the beneficiary through the Aadhaar card or any other government photo ID or service ID or proof of employment. So once the beneficiary, the details are verified, then he will refer the beneficiary to the vaccinator officer who is sitting in the same room, that is a vaccination room. So what vaccinator will do? Vaccinator will vaccinate that beneficiary, ensuring all the safe injection practices. He will enter the mm, the details in a CoWIN app that particular beneficiary is vaccinated, and he will give 4 key messages which are very important to each and every beneficiary. The first is details of the which vaccine is given. Then second, if there is any support required, you can contact ANM or ASHA, nearest ANM or ASHA or medical officer. Third, the message will be that you will receive the date and venue for the second dose through the SMS. And fourth will be the most important, will be to follow COVID appropriate behavior even after vaccination, because I mean, now we are targeting only healthcare workers, so that is not a big issue. But when we will be targeting community, we will have to ensure this, because And naturally, the persons when it is when the person is vaccinated or beneficiary is vaccinated, he will think that there is no need to follow the COVID appropriate behavior. Then he will ask the beneficiary to wait for 30 minutes in a observation room. Okay. Then what is the role of VO3? He will be there in an observation room, that is the third room at all the time, and he will ensure the beneficiary maintaining the physical distancing as well as the waiting for 30 minutes. And if there's any adverse event following immunization, he will immediately inform to the vaccinator. Then the VO number 4, the VO of number 4 will ensure the IC material which is displayed at the session site. Then he or she will manage the overcrowding, and he will also support if there's any AFI. So this is the role of each and every vaccination officers and vaccinator officer. Now regarding the vaccine cold chain vaccine and cold chain management. Now, as we all know that we are going to vaccinate a higher number of beneficiaries in a shorter period of time. So the most important thing is we have to assess the cold chain space for the storage of the vaccine. But now, as far as the vaccination of the healthcare worker is concerned, the number is relatively it is a limited number. So there is no major issue as far as the storage of the vaccine is concerned. We have enough space. As for the calculation, if we have the 100-liter capacity of ILR, then we can store 20,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine. And the second important thing is security of the vaccine, because government has given clear instructions to all the administrators that safety and security has to be ensured of the COVID-19 vaccine, just to avoid pilferage or the damage of the vaccines, maybe at the storage level or at the session site level, or during the transportation. Now about the AEFI, adverse event following immunization, because we all know that when any new vaccine is launched, there is a higher number of AEFIs which are reported. So these are the AEFIs which can be reported. There are 3 types of AEFI: minor, severe, and serious AEFI. So minor, basically they are very common, pain or slight fever or irritability maybe. But the severe AFI, yes, this can be disabling, but rarely they are life-threatening. There are some non-hospitalized cases of anaphylaxis or maybe convulsion or maybe high-grade fever. It is more than 102 degrees Fahrenheit. Then the serious AFI may be death or hospitalization of the cases, and significant disabilities or clustering of the cases. So minor, severe, and serious, all AFIs to be reported post COVID-19 vaccination. So we have AFI committees in place for routine immunization also. Now we have done the expansion, keeping in mind age of the beneficiary, because here we are going to vaccinate adults and the old age group. So we have done the expansion of the AFI committee, in which we have included a cardiologist, a neurologist, then gynecologist and chest physicians in our AFI committee. We are expanding our reporting network so that all the hospitals and the clinics can report the cases of AFI post COVID-19 vaccination. So request to all of you also, if you get any AFI post COVID-19 vaccination, please report to KDMC or to Dr. Nimbakar, who is RCH officer. Then if we want any program to be successful, then we have to have a good quality supervision and monitoring in place. So there will be monitoring and supervision from national level, state level, corporation level, and from the partners like WHO, UNICEF, and UNDP. We have already started monitoring all the session sites for the quality monitoring, and we are giving regular feedback to corporation as well as to the state and to the government of India, just to maintain the quality of the vaccination drive. Now, as far as the IEC is concerned, yes, we have to have the good quality IEC in place. So we are doing advocacy, communication, and social mobilization for COVID-19 vaccine to address these key areas. The first and most important thing is we have to provide correct and transparent information to the community. The second is basically to tackle the vaccine eagerness. We have to make the community understand the prioritized approach for the COVID-19 vaccination. Then third is a vaccine hesitancy. We have to build the confidence, public confidence on the safety and efficacy. And fourth is a COVID appropriate behavior that we have to follow. So we are taking care by doing a good quality ISC. These are the strategies and approaches. We are doing the advocacy with all the stakeholders. Then we have done a capacity building of the health staff. Of course, we have to engage the media and the social media so that the correct information reaches to the community. Then the social mobilization in smaller groups. And most important thing is AFI crisis communication. If any AFI occurs, then we have to communicate in a clear way and proper information to be given to the media so that there will not be just to avoid rumors or the wrong information to the community. Here you can see some photographs, good photographs of launch of COVID-19 vaccination by our honorable commissioner, sir. Then here you can see Dr. Patil. She's taking. She's the first recipient of the COVID-19 vaccination in KDMC, and giving a clear-cut message that there is no need to worry. So this is all about the COVID-19 vaccine drive from my side. Just only one slide to add, because we just one slide on VPD surveillance, vaccine preventable disease surveillance, which we are doing this surveillance in our country since long time. So we do fever and rash surveillance for measles and rubella. And so if you get any case of fever and rash of any age and irrespective of diagnosis, please report it to us. The second is acute flaccid paralysis surveillance that we do it for polio eradication program. So any weakness up to 15 years of age, you can report that case as a AFP. Then we have started diphtheria surveillance also, in which we take cases of sore throat and white patch in the mouth. So irrespective of age. And regarding the pertussis surveillance, yes, any cough for 2 or more than 2 weeks in any person with fits of coughing, we can take that case as that case has been reported as a suspected case of pertussis, and we are doing the surveillance of neonatal tetanus also. So my humble request to all of you to report all the suspected cases to Dr. Nimbalkar, our CH officer, our KDMC. So this is all from my side. Thank you. Thanks for giving your valuable time. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for this wonderful presentation on this COVID-19 vaccination drive. I am sure there is definitely a decreased hesitancy and increased eagerness among all the attendees to go for vaccination. With this, it increases our responsibility as an healthcare providers to make sure that this vaccination drive in our area is an 100% success. So let us pledge to it. Now I request from KDMC, Dr. Nimbalkar, to address our esteemed audience.
This vaccination drive, we are conducting through the CoWIN portal. So we have to, first we have to assign the sites for vaccination. Then we have to assign the sessions for those days. As per the government guidelines, only 3 sites were allotted to KDMC to conduct this vaccination drive. That is, those 3 sites are Rukmini Bai Hospital, Shastri Nagar Hospital, and Shaktidam Quarantine Center. And all these sites, since last from 16th of January, we have conducted vaccination for 5 days. So at every site, we have targeted 500 beneficiaries until yesterday, and we achieved vaccination of 1,445 persons. That is, we achieved nearly 96% of target. So this is the highest in this is MMR region from any corporation. Among these, I have data from EFI cases. All those EFI cases are minor, but only 171. All are minor, like slight fever, body ache, that sort of illness. So EFI also reported 17%, 17%. Next week, also we are conducting sessions at these 3 sites for 4 days a week. That is Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And later on, we will increase the sites also. Probably we will increasing one more site. That is the Savaram Hospital, Savaram COVID Center. We will increase the site from the next week, probably from the Wednesday, because we have to register that site into the CoWIN Act. After successful registration of that site, we can have vaccination at that Savaram Hospital also. And after next week, we will keep the vaccination for 5 days a week. Currently, we have registered from government side, we have registered 29 facilities with 2,341 health workers. And from private side, we have registered 509 private hospitals or dispensaries with 4,251 healthcare workers. So from government and private side, we have the database of 6,592 persons who are eligible for vaccine as per the information in CoWIN portal. But still we are getting some information from private clinics or dispensaries. We are trying to register them also. So this figure might be increased in coming future. And we registered frontline workers, that is from municipal workers from our side. So those are 5,116. So total we have the database of 11,708 persons right now in the CoWIN portal. Why it is necessary to register the beneficiary in CoWIN portal is that after successful immunization with 2 doses of COVID vaccine, the beneficiary will get the certificate from portal itself. That certificate can be used as a proof to vaccination also, and that might be helpful for further travel or anything. They may not be required RT-PCR, but guidelines regarding that will be issued from government side soon. So this is the data. And frontline workers, the police, government, defense ministry will give us the data. That data is also not given to us. So from our side, only 11,708 persons are there on the portal, but that will increase as we will get the data from police department, home guards, etc., other frontline workers. So this is from preparation from the KDMC side, sir. So probably from next week we will have the 4 centers. If government allows us to increase the more sites for vaccination, we will create those sites and we will have vaccination on more and more sites. The creation of more sites will be definitely required when we will vaccinate the third phase, that is more than 50 years of age people and less than 50 years with comorbidity. That time we will require nearly 50 to 25 for vaccination. But currently we are and it is also the global issue right now. It takes very much long time to create a site or create a session. So time being we are that is why we are taking the less number of sessions. When the portal will run smoothly, we will be able to increase the number of sessions. That is Garudina Hospital is going to 3 sessions. Shakrinagar Hospital, India will keep 3 sessions, and Shaktiram Hospital will keep 3 sessions. So in a day, every center we will be able to vaccinate 300 people. Thank you very much for it, sir.
Disturbance in your voice, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, now there will be a lot of questions in our audience mind. So now back to the panelists. A few rapid fire questions in terms of FAQ. Firstly, to Dr. Shreyas Godbole, the question would be, nowadays we are hearing a lot about the mutant strain which is existing in UK, Brazil, South Africa. There are reports from even Australia that multiple variants of mutant viruses are being popping up. So do this vaccination protect us against these mutant viruses as well? Dr. Shreyas.
Okay, so the first was, is a mutation expected? So the answer to that is yes, because the coronavirus is an RNA virus, and by nature, RNA viruses have an aberrant proofreading mechanism in their replication. So yes, a mutation is expected, but the proofreading capacity of a coronavirus is much better than the other flu virus that we know. So the mutation rate should be hopefully slower than the flu virus. An interesting fact is the initial strain that emerged in Wuhan is no longer the globally dominant strain. The globally dominant strain is the D614 mutation, which has emerged in February in Europe. The most concerned mutation right now is the B1.1.7, that is also called as the VOC, that is variant of concern. The initial analysis does show that there are 17 potential alterations that has happened in the virus, but the vaccines per se have trained the immune system to attack different parts of the virus. There are multiple epitopes on the spike protein which have been recognized. And so even though we might say that the current virus wants to escape immunization, but the current vaccines are robust enough so that even a minor change further in the mutation will also not affect the efficacy, and the vaccine should most likely work.
That's really reassuring, Dr. Shreyas. One more quick question to you. Can a person with a previous COVID infection can take vaccination? And how much should be the interval between the swab positivity and the vaccination taken?
So yes, definitely the person who has been infected should get vaccinated. The vaccine acts like a booster phenomenon, and a secondary immune response is triggered. As per the current guidelines that we have, we should wait at least 2 weeks from all the symptoms that have been resolved from the current infection, and only after that we should go ahead with the vaccine. It is also important to make sure that 2 weeks have passed, because the person who is going to wait at the vaccination center should be reasonably not spreading the virus to others. So that period is important to wait for at least 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you. One more quick question to you. Any person who is undergoing any procedure, surgical procedure, or an angioplasty or a CABG, and patient who is on antiplatelet, can he take vaccination, especially post-surgery?
Okay. So patients who are planning surgery, since the vaccine has around, as we have already discussed from our eminent speakers, that there are around 10 to 15% side effects, even though mild. So if the patient is definitely COVID negative, then an emergency surgery we should go regardless of the status of the vaccination. Patients who are on antiplatelets can take the vaccine. The only point is that they should press firmly on the place and the site of vaccination, that is the deltoid, for at least 5 minutes. The patients who are taking anticoagulants, if they are taking low molecular weight heparin subcutaneously, then or even newer acting anticoagulants like or rivaroxaban, especially those who have been discharged from COVID facilities. Many of these patients have been put on aspirin or they have been put on apixaban. So the patients can avoid that day's dose, especially for the newer anticoagulants and enoxaparin. So that day's dose, you can take it after the vaccination rather than before the vaccination. For patients who are on long-term warfarin, if the target INR that was set was between 2 and 3, and we have a recent report of INR which is less than 3, then you can definitely go ahead with the vaccine. But if there is no recent INR, or if the INR target was set a bit higher, then it is better to do an INR first and then go ahead with the vaccine.
Thank you, Dr. Shreyas. That was really good insight. Coming back to Dr. Himanshu Thakkar, two quick questions to you. Can HIV positive patients take vaccine?
As far as the data is saying, immunosuppressed individuals should be avoiding, but better to do a CD4 count before going for vaccination. They can take a vaccine, no doubt, but rest assured that the CD4 count are sufficiently good enough to take over the vaccination process.
Okay, thank you. And one quick question is about pregnancy and lactation. How would you say is safe in this situation?
As I said, the data definitely in pregnancy it should be avoided. I mean, it is a contraindication. If you ask me for data, again, there is no data or no study that has been done, especially in the pregnant females. So I mean, even if the higher authorities are not including, we should avoid vaccination in pregnant females. Breastfeeding, it can be given. As per the JVCI recommendations, breastfeeding females can be given vaccination. But however, the overall efficacy or overall side effect panel and effect on the child, however, it is not yet well established. So better to be avoided in breastfeeding and pregnant females.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Himanshu. Two quick things about it. Please give us general do's and don'ts on the day of vaccination.
Yeah. So we'll go first with the what to be done before and after the vaccination. One is to have plenty of fluids, have a high protein diet, preferably dress lightly because it is usually to be given on the deltoid. So tight dresses or heavy wears should be avoided. As our esteemed panelists have initially said, there is pain at the injection site. So better to exercise that particular arm or use that arm more frequently. If the pain is severe, yes, you can apply clean wet cloth over the injection site to reduce the pain. Take rest, that would be advisable. Uh, Even if you receive the vaccine, you should observe social distancing. You should be wearing a mask wherever required, and always hand sanitization. So even if you are vaccinated, you have to follow these protocols. Coming to don'ts, what should not be done is two vaccines should not be combined together, as far as the authorities say. However, there is some amount of controversy in that also. Some say that different vaccines can be given together, but better to avoid two different vaccines. Even don't interchange the vaccine. So if somebody has taken Covishield, then second dose should be Covishield only. You should not interchange the COVID vaccines also. No alcohol intake, and usually the antibody titers, what we say is full immunization, usually occurs after 2 to 3 weeks of second dose of the vaccine. So prior to that, avoid any unnecessary tests or anything. So better to take precautions at least 2 to 3 weeks post the second dose of vaccine. And as said, even if on the day of vaccination, if you are having even slightest out of fever or any kind of reaction, then better to be avoided that day's vaccination dose.
Oh, great. Thank you, Dr. Himanshu. Now, two quick questions to Dr. Rajendra Kesarwani in our FAQ section. Nowadays, with elderly people, which we are targeting, even the doctors who can be elderlies may be on some immunosuppressive therapy. For example, a rheumatoid arthritis on steroids or any other reason, they might be on any long-term steroid use. So, are we recommending vaccination to such individuals?
Yeah, thank you, Vikram. Actually, as been told by Dr. Shreyas, Dr. Himanshu, the vaccination is it stimulates the immunity. So, person who are on immunosuppression, especially rheumatoid arthritis or other or SLE patients who are on Visalon, preferably vaccination should be avoided, because if you give vaccine and they have to take steroids, that will fail the efficacy of the vaccine. So we have to see the risk and the benefit. Suppose if the want to vaccinate, then we'll have to stop the immunosuppression. And suppose immunosuppression is stopped and there is worsening of the disease, then that will not solve the purpose. So they should consult to the specialist of SLE or rheumatologist, and if they recommend to take the vaccine, then only we can go ahead. Otherwise, it is generally not recommended to give vaccines in the immunosuppressed patient or who are on immunosuppression.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rajan. There is, I think, from majority of the questions from the audience have been addressed, especially about the interval between the active infection and the vaccination part of it. One more question needs to be addressed. Dr. Rajendra Kesarwani, can you let us know what will be the time between getting pregnant after vaccination?
See, now this is a new vaccine, and there are no enough data to suggest our efficacy in the pregnant and lactating females. But generally, once we give the second dose, as told by Dr. Himanshu, Dr. Shreyas, the immunity, it takes 2 to 3 weeks more to have the optimum immunity. So probably 4 weeks after second dose should be safe enough for we can go ahead for the pregnancy. As if now, I would add that the vaccination doesn't decrease the fertility. So it's just a precaution for the side effect if we develop. Otherwise, the vaccination doesn't affect the fertility. So the message should not be there that we are avoiding in pregnancy, the fertility will be reduced, or we should not get pregnant because vaccine per se cause infertility. It is not that way. It is just for the safety of the newborn and the pregnant females. We are recommending not to get vaccinated, and after vaccination, 4 weeks, second dose, we can get pregnant. We can go for pregnancy.
That's a well addressed query, Dr. Rajendra. There are two more quick questions from the audience. One is, person with multiple allergies, especially sulfa allergies or doxycycline allergies, or patient who have got a brittle asthma, where they are very much sensitive to allergens. Do these people can be vaccinated?
Yeah, they can be vaccinated because Covishield doesn't have any allergen per se, any allergen like fish or something component which is seen in Pfizer vaccine. They have specifically told that patients who are allergic to fish and all that, especially asthmatic, they cannot get the Pfizer vaccine. But Covishield we can safely give. We can definitely give to allergic patients. We can definitely give to the patients who have brittle asthma. But with special precaution, we have to tell the vaccinator that this is the history, so that he can be observed for 30 minutes. Everything can be in place like adrenaline and everything. Chances are less, but we can be given with precaution.
One last question from the audience is, there is one 85-year-old person who has recovered from COVID. Does he require vaccination or he can be avoided?
He has to be vaccinated, I think. So there is no other way. Whether it's 85, 90 or 100 years, we have to get vaccinated because vaccine is for safety. And but if he has recovered, it has to be given after 4 weeks as recommended by the general guidelines. So after 4 weeks, he has to be vaccinated.
So the point is well taken that the vaccine is for prevention and for protection. So there is no upper age limit for vaccination. Everybody who is in the susceptible population should be vaccinated. I think we have answered the majority of questions of the audience, and we have probably has a very good Mythbuster session on this in last 1 hour. I would hand over this session to Dr. Pradeep Kumar Sangle to carry out further proceedings. This is from the moderator desk. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Vikram sir, and all the panelists. I would now like to call upon Dr. Rajan Mane sir, who is the Honorary Secretary CGP Subfaculty Kalyan, to give vote of thanks. Dr. Rajan Mane.
Hello. Hello everybody. Thank you, Dr. Sangle.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, so I think we had a very lively and very energetic discussion over here in this webinar. I think we had a few discussions in the past, but I feel we have learned quite a few new things in this discussion. On behalf of IMA Kalyan and IMA CGP Sub-Faculty of Kalyan, myself, Dr. Rajan Mane, thank all the participants. I thank Dr. Prashant Patil, President of IMA Kalyan, for cooperating and arranging this session, along with Dr. Sangle, who is the Secretary of IMA CGP Maharashtra State, at a very short notice. Thank you, Dr. Sangle. Thank you, Dr. Prashant Patil, sir. Apart from that, I must thank all the presidents and secretaries of all the various associations forming the Kalyan Doctors Army, KDA. Of course, all the panelists, Dr. Shreyas Godbole, Dr. Himanshu Thakkar, Dr. Arun Katkar sir, Dr. Nimbalkar, Dr. Rajendra Kesarwani, and most of all, Dr. Vikram Jain, our moderator. I thank you, all of you, for entertaining all the questions and clearing our doubts on various topics. Special thanks are also due to Dr. Rajan Sancheti. I hope that clears. We are at the end of this session, and I hand over this session to Mr. Piyush Kale. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. It was a very nice and informative session. Dr. Sangle, how do you proceed?
Thank you, everybody. It was a very informative and lively session. It was in need of an hour. And thank you, President, sir, Dr. Prashant Patil, all the panelists, Dr. Vikram Jain, Dr. Mane, Dr. Nimbalkar, Dr. Katkar, Himanshu, Rajendra Kesarwani, Shreyas, everybody. Thank you very much.
Even we thank DGC and Push Kale for the wonderful digital platform support. It was really good.